Okay,
Hi there.
I got you. How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks a lot for joining me. It's the first time we've actually met. I've always missed all the events that you've been at, so I've never actually got to meet you in person. So just want to say thanks for coming on. And I honestly never expected you to say yes, to be honest with you. I thought you'd be way too busy.
I am always busy, but there's always time to speak with you. So,
I really appreciate it. Like I say, thanks a lot for coming on. As you might or might not know, you've been a bit of a secret inspiration to me. I've got obviously got a lot of questions, but let's face it, I'm not really going to be contributing too much to this conversation, which I'm more than happy with that because I really can't relate to your story at all. How you managed to get where you are as a woman in such a male-dominated industry. Firstly, I just want to say what you've done is just completely badass. So I just want to say that before we get into it. So I noticed on your Facebook, like I've pretty much everyone I've asked this based on the Facebook information, it's always been wrong. But it says that you grew up in South Carolina. Is that right or?
that is correct.
Oh, it's correct. It's the first time out of 7 podcasts it's been actually been correct. So, would you mind telling me a bit about like your early years, like the town that you grew up in, sort of your environment, where you lived, and also the level of formal education that you got to? Because I find a lot of people in our industry they didn't necessarily go to the whole, what we call university, you call college.
Right. So, sure, I grew up in a very small town in Clio, South Carolina.
Okay.
One stoplight.
Oh, one stoplight. Oh, okay.
One
That is
stoplight.
small.
It's so small. I graduated with 17 other people in my high school class.
Oh, there was 1,700 in my high school.
Yes, big difference, correct?
Yeah.
And while I couldn't wait to leave, like that's all I wanted to do was get out of that small town and go to a big city. In hindsight, I look back and I was so fortunate to grow up in a small town where everyone looked out for each other.
Yeah.
You know, my parents didn't have to worry about me because even if they weren't where I was, there was another adult there that was going to look out for me and make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
And, my friendships, I still am very close with the girls that I went to high school with. My friendships from there are strong. My family has since moved from there, everyone except for my 98-year-old grandmother.
Okay.
Who is kind of like a pillar in the community because she's just such a lovely lady.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in even though I grew up in quite a big town. I lived in sort of like what we call a council estate, I guess you'd call it the projects in America, and they're very tight communities. So even though there was a lot of people still really looked out for each other. There was a bit of crime, but in general, it was very community based. So similar but bigger.
Right.
Yeah. So after high school, did you go on to college after that?
I did. I went to UNC in Greensboro.
Okay.
And studied or majored in dance, where, of course, at that point in time, which most people that do any research into me see that I was a professional dancer in New York City.
I didn't know that at all. I had no idea.
You didn't?
No, I had no idea about that at all. No.
Yeah, so from the time I was 3, I wanted to be a Radio City Rockette, which is the most prestigious dance contract in the world. And I was just mesmerized by the Rockettes. So I had a very long and successful dance career, and I ended up dancing with the Rockettes in New York City.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I just had these big dreams to get out of this tiny little farm town and get to the big city.
Wow.
And make it happen.
So you were even achieving your dreams from being 3 years old. I have 3 girls myself, and they all go to dance and acting classes and stuff as well. So yeah, wow. So you had a dream from that age, and you even managed to pull that one off. So okay. So then, what about your early career? So you leave dance college, and then what about your early career? What kind of jobs did you do as a younger woman?
Well, I think it's important to say that I always worked. Even when I was in my parents' house and a kid, I always worked. My parents never just gave me things.
Yeah,
if I wanted, And I think it's such an important thing to instill a work ethic in children, to give them chores, but then to also say, hey, if you want, the Nintendo, I'm dating myself, but the Nintendo came out.
The latest trainers, then you're going to have to go out there and get a job. Yeah, mine was like helping the local gardener or whatever it was. So, yeah.
Exactly. And I started a grass cutting business.
Same thing. There you go.
Yep. When I was like 12 years old. So,
except yours was your own business. So you've got one over on me even there. I was helping the local gardener, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And then I wanted to work. I wanted to earn my own money. I moved out of my parents' home when I was 16, which is uncommon. It's uncommon in the States, but I find very common in Europe.
Yeah, it's common in Europe, mostly because people go to stay in halls at university. Mm-hmm. But more and more people, because houses become very difficult for people to buy houses. And even rent in this country. Many people now are living with the parents until into the late 20s. But in my time, I'm 38. In my time, leaving home at like 16 was rare. I was like one of the only one out of a group of people that I knew that did that. So another thing that we've got in common.
And I think too, you'll find that people that become entrepreneurs had similar times in their younger lives. I think that there's a lot of people that they wanted more, or they worked harder at a younger age.
I am finding that. Yeah.
There's not necessarily the same comforts, and not that I didn't have comforts. My parents totally took care of me, but they also very much encouraged me to, be brave and go out and chase my dreams, but also let me know that you're not going to just be handed anything in life. You have to put in the work, and even then, you still might not get it.
Yeah, so you can chase your dreams, but we're not going to pay for you chasing those dreams. You're going to have to earn your way through the path of chasing those dreams.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so again, we're talking about jobs that you did as a younger woman. So after you left dance college, did you do any traditional jobs, or did you purely work in the dancing industry throughout your younger life?
So I worked in the dance industry for a very long time.
Right.
And in fact, I had an 18-year professional dance career.
Oh, right. Okay.
So yeah, it's a really long dance career, but I never wanted to stop dancing and then have no other choice but to open a dance studio. Right. I knew a dance studio was not my calling, but I always was working other jobs as well, trying to build out my resume.
Right.
So when I went to New York City, and once I made the Radio City Rockettes, the Rockettes is a 2.5-month long mandatory contract. Even though you're under contract the rest of the year, you only mandatory have to work the Christmas season.
Okay.
And so you get your benefits year round. And
wow, this sounds like a very cushy gig, I'll be honest.
Well, like I said, it's the most prestigious dance contract in the world. Very limited number of women have ever been Radio City Rockettes. And so
sorry, I'm just trying to understand. So Radio City to me sounds like a radio station, and dancing on radio seems like a bit of a weird concept. So how does that actually work? Is it like a tour, like a radio tour?
So Radio City Music Hall it's a music hall. It is a massive building on 6th Avenue.
Yeah.
In New York City, and it was built to originally show movies. So the Rockettes in the 30s would come out and dance and do a live performance right before the movie would play. And so it was
this goes back to like sort of the flapper girls of the 1920s and the 30s. And wow, okay. Right.
That's right. And it's just evolved over the years. And so it's not just the Radio City Music Hall, it stars the Radio City Rockettes.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Great. Okay. So that brings me nicely on to so I'm assuming, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that this 18-year, because you don't look very old, so I'm assuming that this 18-year dance career, there wasn't very much in between that ending and you somehow finding yourself in internet marketing.
Correct. So what I did was I was always working other jobs and building out my corporate resume. so that I wouldn't have to be forced to either open a dance studio or,
So
teach dance.
there was like life after dance, if you like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up doing was when I retired from dance, I stepped right into my first executive position in a company. So I became a VP of operations for actually a physical therapy company that was a national company in the United States.
Okay.
And I worked in very different industries, from the legal industry to the healthcare industry, before I found my way to JV Zoo.
Right.
And of course, internet marketing.
Okay, so then this is a silly question because I think anybody watching this really knows the answer to this question already. But how would you describe your job now? What is it that you do for a living? We know that you're the CEO of JV Zoo, but how did you make the transition from your past career to that?
So I think that what I do is I run companies.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I run companies. As anyone who is running a company, I'm always looking at how do I increase revenue? How do I reduce my expenses? How do I make it a good environment for the people who work with me and make the company run?
Right.
And I don't just do that for JV Zoo. Most everyone knows me as the CEO of JV Zoo, but I own multiple other companies. I consult with a lot of other companies. Some of them I have NDAs I can't talk about. Other ones I consult with the fastest growing financial publisher in the world. And it's all about the operations of the company. How do we streamline? How do we survive this crisis? How do we put out this fire? How do we move past it? And how do we prevent it from happening again?
Right. So you were essentially well, in many ways, a problem solver in many different companies. So, which leads me nicely onto my next question. How did you achieve your rise through JV Zoo? So where did you start with JV Zoo? How did you get involved with JV Zoo? And what chain of events took you to the top of the company? Because I've been a customer and affiliate of JV Zoo since the very, very beginning. And I don't even know that story. So, I mean, if it's too personal, you don't only talk about what you're comfortable with.
Not at all. So I came into JV Zoo late 2014. And of course, JV Zoo started 2012.
Yeah.
So I came in late 2014. A lot of you know that one of the owners, Chad Casselman, is actually my ex-husband.
Right. I thought that was the case. Yeah, I wasn't sure, but yeah.
I'm like, well, the sun just shined really bright.
At least you've got sun, so don't complain. We're in the northeast of England. We don't get any. So.
Yeah, I can see the ocean from right here. So yeah, Chad and I have always been grand friends.
Yeah.
And Chad had always said, you could run any business I own as long as I never have to work for you.
Right.
But at the time, he wanted to introduce me to Brian Zimmerman, one of his co-owners.
Yeah,
who was That's right.
Yeah.
You guys have a great football joke.
We do. I'm right about that one, by the way.
I don't argue with you on that.
Yeah, the thing he's talking about is kicking an egg. That's a totally different game.
That's correct.
In fact, throwing an egg.
Yes, it's very rarely kicked.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chad wanted to introduce me to Brian, and Brian and I sat down and talked, and he, had asked me what I do. And at the time I was going into companies in New York, and I was basically turning them, companies that were losing money. Yep. I was taking them and making them make money. That was my job at the time. And so if they were a loss for the corporation, I would turn it around and make it a positive.
So was JV Zoo losing money at the time?
No,
right, okay.
No, not at all. But Brian and I
can't imagine that there was ever a time JV Zoo would have been losing money, really, because you're known for being a company with a skeleton staff, really.
That's
Am
right.
I right? That's right. Yeah.
We are a very lean company.
Yeah.
Yes. And so basically we just talked about like what I did, how I handled situations, and Brian said that he'd like to work with me one day. And we continued conversations for a while, but mostly I didn't know at the time, but Brian and Chad were having conversations of their own where Brian was saying, are you sure I can hire her for this company? This is your ex-wife. Do you really want me to hire her?
So you and Chad had already split up, separated before you joined JV Zoo. Right,
Yes,
because I always wonder. I'll be honest, it's quite a personal question. I'm sorry if it's too personal.
it's
I
fine.
always wondered how it must be like working so closely in a company with somebody that you've been so closely, intimate with in a relationship.
Right. And like I said, Chad and I have always been great friends. Our divorce, we were great friends in our divorce too. We've always been respectful.
There you go. That's how it works. That's how it's worked then.
Exactly. So once that Chad and Zim had their discussions and Brian Zimmerman was convinced that, okay, this won't be a problem, he offered me a job and I came in as a contractor.
Right.
And I went from being a contractor to their COO. And then Brian said, it's time for you to take over. And I did.
And was that did that coincide with sorry, I forget his name, the guy who went on to have the political career? He left JVZoo, right? So you essentially took over his role.
No, I did not take over his role. No, he was here when I started,
Yeah.
and eventually separated from the company.
Yeah. Right, I see. Okay. Right. Okay, so that covers the JVZoo side of things. So what do you like, what sort of things, the very little time that I'm assuming you have, what do you like to do for fun or to relax?
So I have just become a mother recently.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. So I have a newborn right now, and there's not much
You
relaxing
have a
at all.
newborn and you are running all of these companies as well.
Correct. I took 2 days off. I don't recommend not taking maternity leave to people. I now understand why there is such a thing.
I don't recommend people running multiple companies and having children. Full stop.
It is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have an 11-week-old right now, and so as far as relaxation, that's not a possibility at this point in time in my life. But prior to becoming a mother, I would run. I live at the beach, so I would run on the beach every morning.
Yeah, okay.
That would help me clear my mind.
Yeah.
It was my time to not be on the phone or on a computer, and I could just kind of, without thinking about things, solve issues.
Right.
Because when you do something that clears your mind, a lot of times the answers come to you.
Yeah, I've really found that pretty much everybody I've spoke to have said something similar about the sort of routines. And my next question is about routines. Now, I'm assuming in the last 11 weeks, your routines have changed quite dramatically.
Yes.
From probably waking up quite early and doing something for yourself, rather than getting very little sleep and then still having to do the things you have to do. So right now, how does your day look? How do you manage? Do you have any structure to your days? How do you manage to stay organized, especially now with a baby? Managing such large operations. Do you use any tools, calendars? Like, how do you stay organized?
So I live by my calendar. I absolutely do. And that's why if anyone ever says, well, no, I had it at this time, I'm like, no, my calendar's not wrong. Because I rely so heavily on it that anytime I schedule an appointment, I double check it when it's entered in my computer. When it goes into my calendar, I double check it at that point in time to make sure I made no mistakes.
Yeah.
And then then before I go to bed every night, I have to see what my next day entails so that I wake up ready for that day and there's nothing that catches me by surprise.
Yeah.
But aside from that, interestingly enough, I run a technology company. I own technology companies, but when it comes to remaining organized, I am still very much a pen to paper person.
So they're all hidden away in my drawer because I don't like to have them out on. I mean, I have my notes and I have my Google Calendar, and we run our main projects through Trello. But as far as my daily tasks go, what I have to do that day, it is all written down on a bit of paper and it gets ticked off.
Me too.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. I'm a list person. I like my list and I like to check it off and know that it's done.
Yeah. It took me getting an ADHD diagnosis at the age of 36 to actually get to that point and getting the medication. Before that, believe me, my life was an unorganized, complete mess. So, but now, thankfully, I've managed to fix that. So obviously your routine is right now revolving around your businesses and also your baby. So I imagine that you're probably finding less time for keeping your mind and your body healthy. But what's your view on that? Like, sort of your wake up time, your morning routine, your bedtime. Because I'm always interested. You'll get like the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the world who say 10 p.m. and wake up at 4 a.m. and high performing people just tend to have very different routines than the average Joe, I guess.
So I was very much like the Arnold Schwarzenegger. 10 p.m. was my bedtime. Get up at 4. The latest I would sleep would be 5. That being said, sleep has never been my friend in life. I have never been a good sleeper.
Yeah.
So I would wake up multiple times throughout the night, and especially running companies, check my phone, make sure everything's okay, make sure nothing's on fire. Most JVZoo users can tell you, oh my gosh, I would message Laura in the middle of the night and she would answer me.
I can tell you that.
And people would always say, do you ever sleep? And I'm like, not a lot.
Yeah.
But I thought, naively, I thought having a baby, having no sleep, no big deal. I do this all the time anyway.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother ball game. Every parent already knows this. I was just late to the party of understanding.
Yeah.
So that being said, as once I had a baby, even though my child, knock on wood and bless her heart, sleeps, she sleeps from midnight until 6:30 in the morning.
Oh my God, you are the luckiest person on the planet. For 11 weeks, you are the luckiest person on the planet, honestly. I can assure you that is not typical.
No, it's not. But I am very much like schedule.
Yeah.
So I have really done that with her. And like I said, knock on wood. She's 11 weeks and already teething as well. So there's a whole new set of things happening.
Yeah.
But that being said, even though I'm technically getting more sleep, I'm more exhausted than ever.
Right. Yeah. I can relate to that, because in some ways, I think when you get into such routines of like when you can function on, let's say, 6 hours sleep, but it's even that's interrupted, and then suddenly you get in 6 hours straight sleep, it's like a sort of different, has a different effect on the body, and you can actually be more tired than you were before. It's strange how the body works like that.
It absolutely is. And I think too, though, as far as being healthy and keeping a routine, for me, I'm just now, having a baby, you have to recover afterwards. And I'm just now getting back into working out and being active.
Yeah.
And I no longer have the luxury of like, this is my full hour. Yeah. While it should be my home time as opposed to my work time of doing that. So I'm just trying to squeeze in 20 minutes a day right now. I'll become more structured. Next week is when I'm supposed to now dedicate 30 minutes of the day to working out.
And step it up. Yeah, they say, I saw a conversation between, I think it was Tony Robbins and Oprah Winfrey, and he basically said, if you, no matter what you've got going on in your life, if you can't find 20 minutes for yourself, for whatever that is, whether it's reading, meditation, whatever it is, praying, whatever it is that sort of helps you function in your life, if you can't find 20 minutes, then you don't have a life.
That's right. And I agree with that. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I'm up to the 20 minutes. I do want to get up to the 30-minute mark again. But for me, while I can't necessarily do that, I'm very mindful of what I eat and what I put into my body. Yeah. I've always been that way, but more so now than ever, I think. And mostly because I know that it's important. It impacts the way I feel. It impacts my productivity levels, how I think, how I function.
Yeah. Well, you kind of answered the next question. The next question was, what about keeping your mind and body healthy? What's your view on that? Does it just come naturally? I mean, it's obvious. I mean, coming naturally is a bit of a stupid question, really, because let's face it doesn't come naturally. Otherwise, everybody in the world would do it. So you kind of answered the question. You right now in your life, you're having to sort of force it a little bit. In the past, you found it easier, but you're trying to work back to a place where you can get back to some kind of, having you time and more structure to your day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So a little bit more personal. Have you ever had any major struggles in your life that you're comfortable to talk about? Of course. And if so, how you overcame them? Because and the reason I ask this question to people is because I've started speaking about it more openly now, but I've had issues with addiction and depression in the past, and they were very difficult to overcome. And I did have periods of time, especially when I was very much obsessed with the launch cycle. It's very draining, and you're only as good as your last launch. And if you can't recip, then you don't get a recip back. And I just found over time it wasn't for me, but it put me for a period of my life into not a very nice place where I was basically sat at my desk for a long period of time, which really affected my relationships. And it took me completely overhauling my life to come over. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in your life that has been like a major struggle that you can think of that you've had to overcome, and if you did, how?
Well, first of all, I think if anyone reaches the age of 35 and hasn't had some sort of struggle in their life, that is terrifying because it's a ticking time bomb.
I agree. Yeah, something's coming. If you get to your mid to late 30s and you've not had some kind of major crisis, then something is on its way.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And so for me, I kind of had I know in our industry we have Henry Gold, and Henry had a brain tumor he's very open about. It's actually a skull-based tumor. It's not actually a brain tumor, even though it's in his head. It's called a skull-based tumor, and it's on his pituitary gland.
And we had Susanna as well.
What's that?
Susanna, yeah. So there's been major stories, yeah. Terrible.
That's right. Well, Henry posted an MRI of his brain, and I instantly knew what he had because I had the same tumor.
Oh, you've had a brain tumor?
Yes. So a skull-based tumor. Same tumor as Henry, and I reached out to Henry immediately because he's in New York City, and that's where I lived when I was diagnosed. So I was like, let me give you a list of doctors. Let me tell you, because at the time when I was diagnosed, I didn't have any family there. I knew nothing about the tumor that I now know as much as possible about.
How old were you when this happened?
So I found out I was diagnosed 2 weeks before my 30th birthday.
Oh my gosh, that's so young for something so big.
And I think too, the difference, Henry's was far larger than mine was, which is why his surgery and everything he dealt with was so severe. And I truly believe that being as athletic as I was, having been a dancer, having been healthy and in tune with my body my whole life, that I knew something was wrong. In fact, for a year before I was diagnosed, I knew something was wrong. And for a year, I kept going back to the doctor saying, okay, here's this new thing I'm experiencing. Something's wrong. And it got to the point where my doctor at the time actually told me, like, nothing's wrong with you. Stay off Google.
I suppose, but believe me, over the last few months, I've been going through some health issues of my own. And the amount of times I've been told, stop Googling things. I mean, it's a real thing. Googling can really sort of affect you, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of, I don't know if it's a US phrase, but fobbing off. There's a lot of fobbing off that goes on from doctors, especially to younger people. Like, to get a doctor to even acknowledge that someone at the age of 29 might have a brain tumor. I imagine must have been an extremely difficult process for you.
Well, and then, I knew, and because I knew I wasn't a hypochondriac. I knew that, I was all about getting on with it. So when suddenly something was wrong and it was impacting me, I just kept being my own advocate. And finally, I demanded, the day she told me to stay off Google, I demanded an MRI that day. Yeah. And I had the MRI done, and she called me 2 days later to say, you need to come into my office.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because I've been having some health issues lately, and I had an MRI scan and a barium swallow on the same day about 3 weeks ago, and they've asked me to come in as well. So fingers crossed, there's nothing bad there. I don't think there is. It's just, I think it's something very small, like an acid reflux or something. But yeah, it's it can be scary. It can be scary, and especially when you're younger, it's you feel invincible. You feel as though this doesn't happen to people our age.
Absolutely. And so I think too, that's the way I handled what happened next, I feel like was indicative of who I had become. And I didn't necessarily know it at the time. You're growing up, you're getting more mature, you're taking on jobs, and you know what you do on a daily level at work, but sometimes you don't know the person you've become in the world.
Yeah.
And I think at that point in time, I really had to look at what was going on. And for me, it was almost a little bit of a blessing too, because I realized like I was way too tolerant to people that were just not good for me. They weren't good in my life. They were bad to be around. They were negative people. They were not people I needed in my life. And I cut them out like a cancer. I just immediately
through the exact same process myself, of removing people who toxic people and just surrounding myself by people who I think it's Will Smith who puts it like feed your flame, people who feed your flame, and people who want to put that flame out, get rid of them.
That's right.
The impact it has in your life is amazing.
I agree. And I feel like that is when my career truly took off, actually, is
Right.
One, my medical bills piled up. This was prior to Obama going into office, and what is well known in America now as Obamacare.
Yeah, we're quite lucky in this country with the NHS, so I can't really relate to that either, unfortunately. Or fortunately.
So, well, and then I had extreme medical bills, and I just started doubling my salary every year over year over year. And
you make that sound so easy. You make that sound so easy. I'm being facetious. You had to work hard for it. I understand you did. But yeah, I mean, when you've got something such an important reason to do it, I guess it's amazing where you find the drive to get done what needs to be done.
Absolutely. And as far as making it sound easy, I will say this: when your back is up against the wall, you'd be amazed at what is easy. What wasn't easy was going through radiation. What wasn't easy was watching my hair fall out, as a female, especially watching your hair fall out in chunks and having to go into a corporate environment, into an office, and be around people. That wasn't easy. Doubling my salary was easy. I mapped out a plan. I followed the plan.
Yeah, yes. I can totally now when you put it like that, makes much more sense. So that kind of leads me into my next question. So do you feel that being a woman in a male-dominated world as being a help or a hindrance to getting you where you are today? It's kind of, I don't want to get political, but I'm asking this question from the point of view of, it's almost like the Black Lives Matter movement at the moment. Like, I can't understand racism because I've never experienced it. I am a white male, and there are, whether we like it or not, certain privileges that come with that, especially when you get to the level you're at. Me working in my room, there's not many other people white males or other I've got to compete with, but in the world you're in, do you feel like it's been a help or a hindrance?
I don't think it's been either. Do I think the path has been different? Do I think that there are many times that I have to do things differently because I am a female, or that I'm judged differently because I am a female? Yes, I feel an enormous amount of responsibility for doing things the right way, so that other women can have an easier road behind me. I think it's part of my responsibility. And I always talk about, if you read any of the articles that have been published for me in Forbes or Inc. or any of those things, I'm always talking about equality in the workplace. Yeah. And whether that is equality with race or equality in gender, I believe in work, people should be hired and paid on their knowledge, what they can accomplish, what they can contribute. It doesn't matter if you're a female or if you are African American.
Not necessarily equality in outcome, but equality in opportunity.
Absolutely. And I will say, that a lot of times I have seen people, people write about me and talk about me because of the position I hold in a company where they do business. Yeah. And that comes with anyone in, a CEO position in a company. You'll get blamed for things you have nothing to do with, you'll get credit for things you have nothing to do with. And it's all, part of the job. So you can't really get your panties in a twist, so to speak, over it. But I've seen people that will just side against me all the time. They don't know anything against me, but they're sure of things about me because I am a woman.
Do you find that this is, I'm going off topic here just because of the things you're saying, but do you find that kind of attitude comes more from sort of bigoted males or women that are jealous of your success?
A little of both.
Okay.
As far as men, it's very rare that it's an extremely successful man will say such things. It's actually someone who's far less successful than me.
Oh, yeah. So yeah. Well, obviously, because it's much easier to punch up than it is to punch. Yeah. So a successful man will actually have respect for how you've got where you've got, and somebody who hasn't might talk to you in a bit more of a derogatory manner because they're jealous of the success that you've achieved.
Exactly. And then as far as women, I mean, it really just depends on the woman. I have women
I know, I understand. I'm really trying not to sort of like people are people, humans are humans. Like there are bad men, there are bad women. I'm really just interested in like the sort of because I've not had to experience it. So I'm trying to understand it from your point of view.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I just think that really there is a responsibility for me because it is a real thing. There is a huge gender pay gap. There is gender inequality. And so for me, it's very important just that I do things the right way, that I myself am fair. I think there was a big phase that happened in America after the Sheryl Sandberg, who's the COO of Facebook, she published her book, Lean In. And it was all about women leaning in and finding a seat at the table, the boardroom table, so to speak. I think there was a huge phase after that where women got there, but then they got super defensive. There's only one seat at the table for a woman. And so they were going to defend their seat and push back any other woman that was coming to so-called threaten.
What an interesting dichotomy that you wouldn't expect to happen. But when you think about it, it feels like that would be quite a natural psychological response because you've had to work so hard to get something, and then do you want to share that with somebody else, because we're all human, aren't we? And so, but yeah, what an interesting. I've never thought about it from that. I'll definitely have a look at that book. Hopefully there's an audio version because I'm not so big on the actual books, but I'll have a look at that one.
There absolutely is.
Yeah. What would you say is your number one achievement in your work life? I'm sure you've got many to choose from, and your personal life. I noticed by looking at I can't remember whether it was your website or your LinkedIn page, but that you've won several awards. Too many to list, really. More than I've had products of the days, by the way, just drop that one in there. Is this something that means much to you, or is it just something that you just sort of accept as being parcel of just working hard?
So I believe that awards, they are one, like if we win the Inc. 5000, that's a celebration for my entire team. So I think it's extremely important that Laura Casselman didn't win that award.
Yeah, the team.
Yes, that's right. I was the CEO of a company that the entire team worked together to build that. So those things,
like Manchester United winning the Premier League or something like that, or like the New York Giants winning the Super Bowl, as opposed to the manager winning the Manager of the Year, or
Exactly. And so I think those awards are really important, and I'm extremely proud of those awards. When the company wins, it's a win for everybody. I do have quite a bit of individual leadership awards.
I've seen
and
that.
I think it's interesting because some of them are for like female CEO of the year, which I find,
I can't. I mean, when is there going to be a seat? When is there going to be it may have already happened, but I doubt it. When is there going to be a female winner of just CEO.
CEO.
Has that
Exactly.
has that ever happened to your knowledge?
I think that we're getting there, and I think it may have happened in the last year. I don't know. I'm not paying attention as much. It's been a strange year, and I was pregnant and having a baby, so it's just been a weird COVID year.
It's like saying black CEO. Could you imagine that? I mean, it's
exactly
crazy.
It is crazy. But that being said, here's the thing about awards like Female CEO of the Year or whatever individual award that I have is that in this day and age, awards aren't just for ego. Awards are salary and contract negotiation. And so it's highly important when you're looking at it from that point of view. If, like I said earlier, I consult with a lot of companies. If a company is interviewing consultants and they've got 2 stellar resumes, it comes down to Laura Casselman's won multiple international awards.
It's not about you taking your award and polishing it every day and sticking it on your mantelpiece. It's about writing it on your CV and the effect that has on your career.
You got it. And that's the thing. And 2, since we have discussed the differences in gender and does it play, typically speaking, women do not apply for awards as often as men do.
Right.
So therefore, when you talk about the pay gap between women and men, sometimes it's self-inflicted because you didn't apply for the awards, because there is this whole concept that women won't win the awards because it's not balanced. If you don't apply, you don't know. So I'm big in saying apply for the award and then negotiate your contract or your salary. You're worth it if you have the skill set.
Yeah, perfect. So awards aside, your number one achievement in your work life, and that could go right back to the Rockettes, and the number one achievement in your personal life. I'm going to guess your personal life. Well, I won't say it in case I get it wrong, because if I do, I'll make you, I'll look terrible. But I think I know what you're going to say in your personal life.
Well, no, I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Okay, well, I'm going to just put myself really right on the spot here now. Pretty much everyone else that I've interviewed so far says that their number one achievement in the personal life are the children.
Well, I definitely think that, wow, when you have a child, it just changes your whole world. And especially like as a female birthing a child, it's mind blowing. It's miraculous.
You can't even compare it to a work achievement. It's not.
You can't.
They're completely different things. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then as a parent, when your child smiles at you the first time, and when your child, because they recognize you, and when your child laughs for the first time, they're just absolutely, there's no work achievement to compare that to, because honestly, other than be a part of creating this child, you didn't make that happen. They did.
Yeah, exactly. And the awards are in some respects a personal achievement, but you can't compare them to a human child.
Absolutely.
So unless something else. Your child's only 11 weeks old, so maybe it's time. Maybe there was something else before that.
No, I think, if as far as my personal life, I think that becoming the human being that I wanted to become, I feel like I am a solid role model for the child I have now, because integrity matters to me. Yeah. And I think anyone that knows me knows integrity is top of my list. Yeah. So I don't think anyone that knows me would ever question that. Anytime something's been questioned with me, I can always tell who knows me and who doesn't know me. And I feel that strongly that my character speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's never been in question with you. I've literally, I would say, I absolutely would say I've never heard anybody say a bad word about you in the industry. And the hundreds of people that I've spoken to over the years, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about you, and that's the honest truth.
Thank you.
So number one achievement in your work life?
And that one's a tough one too. I think leading an equality driven company is huge.
You're talking about JV Zoo there, or is it one of the other companies that you consult for?
Every company that I work with, that's a priority.
They all run in the same sort of manner.
Yes, and I think especially if we talk about JV Zoo, because you know it so well,
Yeah.
especially in a male dominant industry
Yeah.
where, I mean, it's not about inequality. It simply is the majority of people that are drawn to the industry are male.
It is. I mean, I have tried. I have. I mean, I get my information on this right from my paid traffic campaigns. Paid traffic is my thing. That's what I do, and I run many campaigns where I target the entire world, everybody on Facebook, everybody on Google, everybody who's interested in, say like internet marketing or Frank Kern or whatever it is, and almost always we're talking 75% plus of the people that respond to the adverts are male. They just
That's
are.
right.
I don't know
That's
why
right.
that is. I don't know why that is. I can't explain it, but it's a fact.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that in the years to come, especially because of the lockdown, the high unemployment, I'm certain that there are going to be many more women starting businesses that maybe didn't that wasn't maybe on their path before, who will then become interested in marketing that business. So I expect the female market share in this industry to grow. I expect it to grow, but traditionally, you're absolutely right. I don't know why it's male dominated. It just is.
And there are great women in this industry. There's just not as many. I mean, you have Cindy Donovan, you have Kate James,
Valerie.
yes, Liz,
Tons, yeah. There are tons.
Tiffany.
There are tons who are as equally, or if not more talented than certainly some of the men who are seen to be extremely talented, and they tend to be no question on the ethical side of any of the females in the industry, actually, which is
Correct.
another strange thing, which again could be a numbers game. So I won't put that down to, but
I agree. And I think another thing too is that when you think about the work from home mentality, or you think about like working online in general, is that, it's very much like there have been paths in the past for women and paths for men.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that, where everything evolves at its own rate. Well, now you've got where I think in the past women thought, if I work from home or I work online, then I need to do a blog about childcare and how
Exactly.
does,
I mean, if you were to go to, and I know this from personal experience, and I'm actually doing a podcast with someone who owns two skincare, and also as well, if you know any other females who you can like send my way, please do, because I would love to talk to way more females who got online businesses. But if you were to go to, let's say, Etsy, the percentages there will be reversed. 75% of the Etsy vendors who are crafting things, making things with their hands, is female, and very few are male. So this like software type, maybe there is something genetic about software and that kind of stuff that's more. I'm not sure. I don't know. But
I don't think it's so much that as it's been more of like STEM, when you're talking about sciences and technology and math, that has never, it's always been kind of promoted as more for males.
Yeah.
But you were seeing a big push towards, it's not just for men anymore.
Yeah, we are.
Jen Purdue is another woman in our industry, and she and I have talked about this a lot. Like, we're not the girls that are like, let's go get our Starbucks and go to yoga. Jen and I aren't like that at all. Yeah. We want to grind out the work and do the marketing and like in a different way.
The next SaaS you can create or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's definitely moving that way, and I really hope it does, because also I think a lot of women in general have got just so much more attention to detail, and I think they just create better products. I'm in some of the cases I know of. I mean, not always. There's obviously some great men that create absolutely fantastic products, but the women that I know of, everything they make is great.
Well, and there's a reason why companies that have at least one female as an executive or one female on the board, generally speaking, make more money. And it is because we all have different skill sets, and we do see things from a different perspective, and it just helps round out the company.
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. Like, as though, although men and women absolutely should be treated equally in the workplace, we are still two different types of human beings that have different mindsets, different skills, different abilities, different ways of looking at things. And if you're not bringing them together to make a whole sort of view of the marketplace, then I think you're absolutely crazy.
I agree.
Yeah. So, what would be this is probably different for you because you were dancing for so long, but what would be the number one advice you'd give to your younger self regarding being the best person that you could be to succeed in all aspects of your life?
I think for me, I hid my intelligence for so long. It was frowned upon to be, intelligent, to be as intelligent as I was. And for a long time, and conversation in general, like especially while I was a professional dancer, if I was at a dinner table with a bunch of business people, I would keep my mouth shut, and it would be, predominantly men. And when I stopped keeping my mouth shut and when I would contribute, generally the men at the table would be highly impressed, except for the man I'd be dating, who would then be like, well, you made me look dumb. And I'm like, I didn't make you look dumb. I was contributing, and I know a lot about the subject. And I found that,
it's funny. It's
who cares?
Funny. Yeah, no, it's funny. And it's funny to hear someone else talk about it in that way, because I think it's something like that is very common, and I think it can happen in a lot of relationships, and especially in the past, women have I probably felt forced to dumb themselves down, almost just to be able to get ahead. Yet when people when they actually go, you know what, screw this, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be me. It actually works more in their favor.
Well, and I remember after my divorce, I remember some females that they were more acquaintances. They weren't my friends, so to speak, but acquaintances who would tell me well, Laura, you're never going to get remarried if you don't play a little more dumb. And they would tell me things like that. And I would be like, that's ludicrous. But
just meet a man who is completely comfortable with you being more successful than him, or of equal or less intelligent, or whatever, or more intelligent, or whatever. It's about
exactly. And another thing too is, as I would say, I read 3 books a week. Why do I need to act like I don't? Why do I need to act like I didn't retain any of that information?
Of course. Be with someone who admires you for that and doesn't feel threatened by it. Well, anyway, I'm glad
and supports it.
I'm glad that you found someone who like that. Anyway,
Thank you.
So, it's the final question, because I'm really respectful of your time. We're got to be approaching an hour. What advice would you give to anybody starting out in online marketing today? I know you took a different route. Really, you didn't do the whole building an email list and creating products and all that kind of stuff. You came from a corporate.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, you did do that.
It's so funny because a lot of times people would say, well, Laura's just a CEO. She doesn't know anything about it. But I did do that.
People do say that. I'll be honest. People do say that.
No, I know they do. And what's funny is I have alluded to it the entire time. I have profiles on Facebook that aren't under Laura Casselman, and they're out there and they sell products. And Omar and Melinda Martin can tell you I was one of their inner circle students.
And I mean, you must have read more sales pages than anybody else in the industry. So how could you not have retired? Yeah, I had no idea. But I said I'd be honest with you. And whilst I've never heard your ethics criticised, I have absolutely heard people say that you basically just came from not being involved in internet marketing at all to being in charge of an internet marketing platform, which to some people seemed a bit counterintuitive. But you're saying that you have had your sort of training and you're in the trenches in the industry.
I have, and I've sold on other networks as well, and sometimes still do.
You should have done it in your own name, and nobody would be saying this.
No, see, here's the thing. People who make assumptions, you know what they say about them. It makes an ass out of them.
Okay.
And I live strongly by that. I will say that doing what I did is, especially, I did it when I was a contractor for JV Zoo. I did it when I was the COO of JV Zoo. I've done it as the CEO of JV Zoo. And doing it, especially at the beginning, not only helped me learn this industry, but it is why I was able to spot all the fraud, know the people who didn't pay their affiliates. I know the people inside and out, and people don't even realize that I do. I've done it under a man's name. Yeah.
Sneaky devil.
Exactly. And so there are some people who have really known, like I said, Omar and Melinda. I was one of, like I said, their inner circle student. They know those things. There are other people who know because I have quietly at an industry party called them out on something that they had no idea I would know the details of.
I wish I would. I definitely should have gone to more events.
Well, I didn't do it where everybody else could hear. I would just stand beside them and quietly let them know that I knew what was going on, and they might want to cut it out.
I'd love, I know it's not going to happen, but I'd love for you to say who that is. But anyway, it's not going to happen, so I'm not going to ask.
No, but I will say some of the people who have branched out of JV Zoo and have things to say, like Laura doesn't know anything, or some of the people that I've called out.
Right. Okay. And actually, funnily enough, I've talked about this a few times over the last few weeks as well. If you think about some of the people who are seen as being the biggest launchers right now, the reality is they've only really been in the industry for 2 or 3 years, because they tend to push the boundaries more with their ethics, and in my opinion, they tend to get found out. And I've seen because I was 2012, I joined JV Zoo like literally the moment it opened. Like I'm in the, I can't remember my number, but it's low. It's quite low. And before that, I did like 2 years Warrior Plus before JV Zoo was even a thing.
Exactly.
And I've seen the cycles. I could name the names. I won't, but I've seen the cycles like 2 to 3 years. There's this is the group of people who are the top. They get found out. They get replaced by another group of people. And I could count on 2 hands the people who are still around from 2010 over that decade, who are still putting out successful products over and over again, and haven't pushed them boundaries and end up. So these people do get found out. And like you say, the people who move on, who make it sound like they move on to bigger and better things, are actually just being found out.
Yes. Oftentimes, I would absolutely agree with that.
Not always.
Yeah, I was going to say, then you have great people who have just expanded their businesses.
Like
they built
Brunson, for example, or like there's many people. Yeah, of course. I don't mean all there, but I mean in general, there does seem to be these cycles that, like, every 2 or 3 years, there seems to be a cycle that happens with the market where people get found out and then they get replaced with other people. And then obviously there are these big superstars who go on to do absolutely amazing things. So, yeah.
And I think it's really important, though, in the industry to do your due diligence as an affiliate, because we can't always be creating a product, right? Yeah. And so in between the product creation and launching that product, selling and supporting it, then you're an affiliate. That's how you continue to bring your income in and monetize your list.
Yeah.
But it's extremely important to be diligent in researching the products that you're going to promote. And there are a lot of people that are very much under the thought of, well, I know this person's shady and I know their products are junk, but they're making a lot of money right now, so I'm going to promote this. And that's when you just have to ask yourself, who are you really?
Who are you really? And to be honest with you, the reason why I am stepping out, I mean, I'll still be running everything that I'm selling will still be run through JV Zoo. I just won't be launching anymore. And the reason why is because the only way, in my opinion, now to have these, apart from, again, the top guys that we all know, like Abby and Paul Ponner, and these big guys who do really great products and have success over and over again. The other guys, it's all about the reciprocation. Unless you hit their leaderboard, they're not going to support your launch. So it's very difficult for you to be able to just like over and over again do big launch after big launch. There has to be some lead generation outside of just launching.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way the market is actually going to grow. So like this podcast is going to be on in a membership area called The Journey, and all of the people that are going to become members of that are all going to come from Facebook, YouTube, Google, Instagram, and Pinterest. All probably brand new people who have never been in the market before. They won't come from any affiliate promotions at all. So they're all people that are going to be brought into the market. And I think if more people were doing lead generation outside of just getting leads from launches, the whole market would benefit from it.
Absolutely. And it is the people who only reciprocate if you are on their leaderboard who have this short-minded thinking. Exactly. And it is short-minded. And I don't mean to be offensive. I just mean it actually isn't beneficial in the long term for the business or the industry. And, you know, people like Luke McGuire. Luke always worked with Simon Harris. Yeah. Simon, who is mostly left this industry at this point in time. Simon
quite closely with you these days, right?
Yes, we do.
I'm sorry if not many people were meant to know that. I just
That's fine.
I know that he just helps you out a bit. I don't know what he does, but I just know that he's like sort of helping the company out a bit, which is great because the guy that's another guy who the ethics are there. The successful products after successful products, not launching time after time after time after time after again, only launching quality stuff. And not just reciprocating any old crap just to get the affiliates to promote.
Exactly. And Simon, actually, who owns the Launch Express, he started that marketing company directly in the internet marketing industry, working with Luke. But that's one of the companies I consult with.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Simon, I recognized a lot of talent in him years ago, and he's also one of the people who knows about my secret internet marketing world. But one of the things there is that every single launch that they had, Simon went outside of our circle. And he brought people in from YouTube or from other industries. Yeah. And he was one of the people that was constantly building the circle, replenishing the bucket of leads, and bringing really thoughtful people in, that made sense. So it makes sense too that his business has expanded far beyond this because he wasn't thinking short term. He was always thinking next step.
That's exactly where I'm going with this. I mean, I've got this core. It's called the code programs, and it's all the dropship code, the social code. There'll be the local code, the affiliate code. There'll be the launch code. There'll be all these different. They will all be like $67-$97 products, software and training, all on JVZoo. But they will be sold to people who are in this very low-priced membership area where they get these podcasts and they get loads of free training. So like a sort of internal, and they can create topics and talk to each other and create little groups and all that kind of stuff. So
great.
And I'm bringing all of those people in from YouTube, Pinterest, Facebook, and then they'll become JVZoo buyers. So I just think, this incestual pool of leads has got to stop at some point. There has to be people like Luke, like Simon, and like what I'm trying to do at the moment, who are bringing new people into this market. Otherwise, it's going to stagnate, and we're not going to carry on seeing the growth that we have over the last 10 years.
Absolutely. And I encourage people like yourself that when you see an issue, be a part of the solution. Like exactly what you're doing. There is a time to complain and to say, hey, we need to fix this, but don't just complain. Be a part of the solution. Be, if you lead the way, the people that think similarly to you will follow, much like the circles you're going to create, and people will gravitate towards those.
Exactly. I mean, the whole point of setting up these free training videos is I'll be teaching people why I'm doing it and encouraging them to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to be teaching them exactly how to run the ads to their own little. So hopefully it spreads anyway, and hopefully we can all do a bit of good for the industry. Anyway, I want to be respectful of your time because I know you've got a lot to do, and you've probably got a baby that's either with a father who is wanting to hand back over, or you've got some busy meeting to get back to. So thanks a lot for your time. It's been really great chatting to you. It's the first time we've ever actually properly spoken in person. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I hope maybe one day we could do it again in the future.
Thank you. And I look forward to meeting you in person. I thought it was going to be Ireland last year, but didn't get to see you.
And then I thought it was going to be Cyprus, and then coronavirus hit, and then
that's right.
Let's hope that's all out of the way, and we can get one in next year sometime. And I'll definitely be there.
I need to get a JV Zoo milestone T-shirt to you, because I did carry that T-shirt all around Europe with me after I left Ireland. I think it went to Spain.
Yeah. My problem with my JV Zoo milestone T-shirts is I'm on like 120 launches, I think, but I would say probably 90 of them were through other people's JV Zoo accounts. So right. I've not really, my account's like is relatively small numbers, but yeah.
I think I had you. I don't even know what it is.
I've done my bit.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even remember what it is, but I know we had combined this stuff, and because it's still packaged at the office, and it has your name on the outside of it in the package.
Get it sent over to me. I'll wear it on my podcast. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. It was a pleasure. Really nice to meet you. Have a really great day. Thanks very much again, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely. See you later. Take care, Laura.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.